Antarctica was discovered on January 28, 1820, during an expedition led by Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen and Mikhail Lazarev. Since then, scientists have conducted numerous studies of this continent, yet it continues to remain largely unexplored and keeps its secrets hidden beneath the ice. In this video, I invite you to travel to Antarctica and discover the most amazing findings made on its territory. Enjoy watching. In 1737, a French academic named Philippe Buache presented the scientific community with a strange map of a continent that he compiled based on other ancient maps. This man was fascinated by what was then considered experimental theoretical geography. All of his work was based on hypotheses. Buache spent a lot of time studying various literature and, based on his analysis, speculated about the existence of geographic features that were unknown in the 18th century. Surprisingly, he accurately predicted the existence of Alaska and the Bering Strait. But his theories, of course, were only proven after his death. The Buache map, depicting a mysterious continent free of ice, puzzled scientists. It wasn't until 1966 that Charles Hapgood, in his book Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, proposed the hypothesis that the map might show Antarctica. This bold suggestion faced criticism. Only nearly 3 centuries after the creation of the Buache map did modern scientists confirm that it indeed shows Antarctica. Buache astonishingly accurately reproduced the subglacial topography of the entire continent. But the most surprising aspect of the map was that the French academic, based on now lost sources, depicted a body of water in the center of Antarctica, dividing it into 2 subcontinents. This line runs where the Transantarctic Mountains are now shown. It is worth noting that in addition to the Buache map, there is also the Piri-Reis map, which was also created based on ancient sources. These 2 artifacts make us wonder whether Antarctica was truly discovered in 1820, or much earlier when it was still free of ice. In the depths of the world's oceans lie about 3 million sunken ships, each of which holds its own unique story. Among the most famous sunken vessels is the ship Endurance, which took part in the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition. The story of this ship began in 1914 when Anglo-Irish explorer Ernest Shackleton organized an expedition with the goal of crossing the entire Antarctic continent. He managed to assemble a large team of 56 like-minded individuals. On August 8, 1914, these explorers embarked on a long journey from Plymouth aboard 2 ships, Aurora and Endurance. Shackleton's group on the Endurance planned to reach the coast of the Weddell Sea, spend the winter in the Bay of Vassal, and in the next Antarctic season head toward the South Pole. The second group was to reach Ross Island in McMurdo Sound and establish supply depots necessary for the successful return of the first ship. Unfortunately, things did not go according to plan. Early in the journey, Endurance encountered insurmountable obstacles. Thick layers of ice that not only hindered progress, but also seriously damaged the ship's hull. In the harsh cold, the crew tried for 3 days to save the vessel, unloading supplies onto the ice and attempting to pump water out of the hold. However, their efforts were in vain, and Shackleton was forced to order an evacuation. Eventually, the Endurance sank completely beneath the water. Scientists tried many times to find the legendary ship. This strong interest was due to the assumption that the vessel would be remarkably well preserved, which was entirely possible, since the deep, cold Antarctic waters lack both oxygen and light. Although all previous search attempts failed, in early 2022, the Endurance Trote expedition, led by researcher John Shears, finally succeeded. The search operations were carried out from the South African vessel Agulhast using modern Saab Sabertooth underwater search vehicles equipped with sensors, lights, and cameras. After a short search, the ship was found at a depth of 3,008 meters in the Weddell Sea. The scientists' assumptions were confirmed. The vessel was indeed in excellent condition, despite being underwater for over 100 years. Today, Endurance is recognized as a historical monument and a site of special significance. A protective perimeter has been established around the area where the ship remains underwater to restrict activity at the site. Interestingly, despite its excellent preservation, there are no plans to raise the ship. In the waters of Antarctica live unique fish, crocodile icefish, also known as icefish. Their name is not accidental. The fact is that their blood differs from that of most other vertebrates, as it contains almost no red blood cells or hemoglobin. As a result, the blood of these fish is not red but white. almost transparent and has a very thin consistency. This blood feature allows them to survive and function successfully in the extremely cold conditions of the Southern Ocean, where winter water temperatures can drop to 2 degrees Celsius. When scientists discovered this unusual feature of the icefish, they sought an explanation. Through numerous studies, they found that the unusual blood is the result of a long evolutionary process that began about 25 million years ago, when the climate of the Southern Ocean changed drastically. The ancestors of these fish adapted to life in cold, oxygen-rich waters. They literally evolved, their hearts became much larger, and they developed an additional network of blood vessels. These adaptations led to the fish no longer needing hemoglobin, and their bodies stopped producing it. Another important evolutionary feature of these fish is the presence of an antifreeze protein, a specialized glycoprotein in the blood that prevents ice from forming inside the body. Thanks to this, icefish have learned to survive in extreme conditions. The study of these fish has provided scientists with valuable data on the biochemical and physiological mechanisms of adaptation to extreme environments in Antarctic waters. Imagine a strange marine creature that looks like an octopus, a jellyfish, and a creepy alien monster all at once. That's what Promachocrinus, or the strawberry feather star, looks like, a member of the crinoid family first described in 1879. For a long time, it was believed that this genus included only one species, but thanks to new discoveries and molecular studies conducted in 2023, it was found that there are at least 5 species of Promachocrinus. Animals from this genus belong to cold-water crinoids and mainly inhabit the seas around Antarctica and nearby island groups. Unlike other members of this class, strawberry feather stars have adapted to life under the ice, making them unique. Visually, Promachocrinus look very peculiar. These feather stars have a long stalk-like body with 20 feathery arms. These help the animals move between surfaces. They also have peculiar tendrils underneath that resemble long claws, which they use to anchor themselves to the seabed. Strawberry feather stars mostly live at great depths, often several hundred meters. These creatures tend to grow slowly, and their maximum body length can reach 20 centimeters. An interesting feature of Promachocrinus is their ability to regenerate lost body parts, which helps them survive in the harsh conditions of the ocean. The study of Promachocrinus is important for understanding the biodiversity of Antarctic waters and the mechanisms of adaptation of marine organisms to cold environments. These studies help scientists better understand the processes of speciation and evolution in extreme conditions of Antarctica, and also expand our knowledge of marine ecosystems in general. We tend to picture Antarctica as a land of eternal frost, with endless white valleys covered in snow and ice. However, on this continent, there is one astonishing place whose landscape is completely different from what we imagine. This place is known as the McMurdo Dry Valleys. The McMurdo Dry Valley are located in Victoria Land. Their area covers more than 8,000 square kilometers. What makes this place unique is that these valleys are completely free of ice and snow. Looking at the landscapes of the dry valleys, it's hard to believe they are part of Antarctica. Many researchers compare this area to Mars. However, the absence of snow and ice does not mean that this location offers comfortable conditions for humans. Quite the opposite. The lack of snow and ice is due to special katabatic winds, which blow through the valleys at very high speeds, averaging 150 kilometers per hour, literally sucking all the moisture out of the air. These winds have been blowing across the dry valleys for more than 8 million years, creating conditions that are as close to Martian as can be found on Earth. NASA has repeatedly sent its space equipment here for testing, as there is no better place on Earth to trial Mars-bound technology. Despite such conditions, scientists continue their research in the dry valleys. In the slightly more humid rock areas, they discovered remarkable endolithic plants that have adapted to these extreme conditions. But in the coldest and driest part of the valleys, University Valley, researchers found no signs of life at all. It is one of the few places on Earth where life is entirely absent, which is not surprising considering that there have been no recorded precipitations here for several million years, and wind speeds can reach 230 kilometers per hour. Today, the dry valleys are under special protection according to the Antarctic Treaty. They continue to guard their secrets and amaze researchers, remaining one of the most extraordinary places on our planet, where nature has created its own truly alien world. At the beginning of 2019, a group of researchers from the University of California, supported by NASA, made a sensational and at the same time alarming discovery. At the base of the Thwaites Glacier in West Antarctica, they found a giant cavity that poses a serious threat to the stability of the entire region. The discovery was made using modern satellite imagery and a special radar capable of penetrating through kilometers-thick ice. The cavity continues to grow. According to preliminary estimates, its current depth is 300 meters and its area reaches 40 square kilometers. Thus, scientists concluded that the glacier has lost about 14 billion tons of ice, and that is a huge amount, which is why this discovery caused serious concern among researchers. The rapid growth of the cavity, as well as the fact that the Thwaites Glacier retreats by 800 meters each year, could lead to catastrophic consequences not only for Antarctica, but for the entire world. This is because the collapse of the glacier would cause a significant rise in global sea levels. Experts from the University of California in Irvine and NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena note that this discovery confirmed their fears. According to them, they had long suspected that the glacier was not tightly attached to the underlying bedrock, and thanks to a new generation of satellites, scientists were finally able to obtain detailed data on the scale of the problem. Today, scientists continue to study this phenomenon using modern observation technologies. The data obtained will help to better understand the mechanisms of glacier melting and develop more accurate forecasts for the region. Understanding the ongoing processes will help create strategies for adapting to climate change and minimizing possible consequences for humanity. Unfortunately, the discovery of a huge cavity in the Thwaites Glacier once again demonstrates how fragile and vulnerable any ecosystem on our planet can be. Antarctica can be called a natural freezer as its extreme conditions preserve various objects in remarkable condition. Constant low temperatures and dry air minimize the effects of destructive processes, which means that items trapped in the permafrost often appear as if they were recently created. This opens up wide possibilities for historical and scientific discoveries that provide insights into the lives of polar explorers and past expeditions. One of the most amazing artifacts discovered in Antarctica was a fruitcake. It was found in 2017 by New Zealand scientists during the study of abandoned huts at Cape Adare in the Victoria Land region of East Antarctica. At the time of discovery, the cake was 106 years old. Impressive, considering that food usually spoils quickly. Yet this cake not only retained its shape, but also looked quite edible and even had a pleasant aroma. Researchers found that the fruitcake belonged to the Huntley and Palmer's Company, a well-known producer of biscuits and baked goods at that time. It was lying on a shelf in the hut, packed in a tin box and carefully wrapped in paper, which further contributed to its preservation. According to the expedition leader Lizzie Meek, this fruitcake was part of the food supply for members of the British Terra Nova expedition, which took place in Antarctica from 1910 to 1913 under the leadership of Robert Scott. The New Zealand scientists decided to leave the cake in its historic location in the hut to highlight the uniqueness and cultural value of the find, as well as to preserve it within the context of the expedition camp. This discovery not only emphasizes the remarkable preservation qualities of the Antarctic climate for organic materials, but also tells a story about the lives of early 20th century Antarctic explorers. Modern scientific technologies are opening new horizons for research. Such tools are absolutely essential for scientists working in the most extreme environments on our planet, and of course, for studies in Antarctica. Thanks to them, researchers managed to make a truly sensational discovery. In 2009, scientists from the European Space Agency began observing the continent from space using modern satellite systems. This study lasted 4 years, and its results allowed specialists to obtain unique information about what lies beneath the several kilometer thick ice sheet. It turns out that beneath more than 1.5 kilometers of ice were hidden ancient continental structures, specifically remnants of the Earth's oldest crustal platforms. Using this data, scientists were able to create a detailed three-dimensional model of Antarctica's lithosphere. This innovative map gave researchers the opportunity to visualize the formation processes of the continent that have occurred over hundreds of millions of years. This discovery made it possible to propose a well-grounded hypothesis that Antarctica was once part of a giant supercontinent that eventually broke apart, forming today's continents. In particular, during those epochs, Australia was geographically closest to Antarctica. It's hard to believe, but about 55 million years ago, there was a giant land bridge between them. Interestingly, 10 years later, in 2023, the use of satellites once again led to sensational discoveries in Antarctica. Scientists were then able to detect an ancient geological region, over 14 million years old, including valleys and mountain ranges hidden beneath the massive ice sheet. Thus, thanks to modern technologies, specialists are not just making new discoveries, they are uncovering unexplored worlds hidden beneath the ancient ice of Antarctica. Antarctica attracts scientists from all over the world, not only because of its unique climatic conditions, but also because it contains a vast number of meteorites. In 2023, an international group of researchers from Belgium, Switzerland, and the US went on an expedition near the Princess Elizabeth Station, located on the Schutzsteinen Nunatak. This area turned out to be an ideal place to search for cosmic bodies. The reason is that extreme climatic conditions, such as low temperatures, strong winds, and dry air, help preserve the structure of meteorites. To carry out a large-scale study, scientists used modern satellite technologies and remote sensing methods. This allowed them to identify potential sites with high meteorite content, even in areas that are difficult to reach using traditional methods. While studying the area, the team of specialists discovered 5 new meteorites, but only one of them attracted special attention as it weighed more than 7.6 kilograms. This specimen became one of the largest meteorites ever found in Antarctica. This meteorite was carefully studied, and experts discovered another amazing feature. It turned out that its chemical composition almost exactly matches that of the Sun, which is extremely rare among meteorites. Such objects provide a unique opportunity to glimpse the primordial material from which our solar system formed about 4.6 billion years ago. Interestingly, more than 45,000 meteorites of various sizes have been found throughout the history of Antarctic exploration. The unique landscape and consistently low temperatures ensure the preservation of these cosmic fragments, unlike many other regions of Earth where atmospheric conditions quickly destroy such objects. Mount Erebus stratovolcano is located on Ross Island in Antarctica. This majestic giant rises 3,794 meters above sea level and is the southernmost active volcano on our planet. Its name comes from Erebus, the ancient Greek god born from primordial chaos. This volcano was discovered on January 27, 1841, during an expedition led by explorer James Clark Ross. 67 years later, members of another expedition led by Ernest Shackleton managed to reach its summit. They were also able to literally peer into the depths of the Agave crater, more than 800 meters in diameter, inside which lies a fascinating lava lake. Interestingly, such lava lakes exist in only a few volcanoes in the world. Today, Erebus remains active. Its most recent eruption occurred quite recently, in 2023. The volcano is constantly monitored by scientists from the New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology, who have established a special observation station here. Erebus is located in a remarkable place, at the intersection of powerful tectonic faults. This location contributes to the periodic release of deep gases, including hydrogen and methane, which, reaching the stratosphere, affect the ozone layer. Above the Ross Sea, where this majestic volcano is located, the ozone layer is at its thinnest. Since 1972, the stratovolcano has not ceased activity for a single moment and is considered one of the most active volcanoes on the planet. Erebus is an important part of the Ross Island ecosystem. Around the active volcano are several hot springs, which are home to unique microbes adapted to volcanic and Antarctic conditions. In 2010, during the Icebridge expedition, NASA scientists discovered an unusual rectangular iceberg that had broken off from the Antarctic Larsen ice shelf. This icy giant attracted special attention from researchers due to its geometrically precise shape. After discovering the iceberg, scientists began trying to uncover the mystery of its perfect form. Initially, it was assumed that the iceberg's sharp angles were the result of a recent separation from the ice shelf and had not yet been eroded. However, further NASA research using satellite images revealed a more complex origin story. It turns out that the rectangular iceberg appeared after a larger rounded iceberg, A68, broke off from the Larsen Glacier. Initially, it had a square shape, but eventually transformed into a trapezoid. The iceberg's journey was not an easy one. It passed through a narrow channel between the northern edge of A68 and the rocky shore near the Bowden Ice Rise. As a result of numerous collisions, pieces of ice broke off from the iceberg, giving it this astonishing rectangular form. Interestingly, nature managed to create such a remarkably perfect shape on such a large scale. The iceberg was 100 meters long and 900 meters wide. Its thickness reached 220 meters. After the iceberg was discovered and studied, scientists continued to observe it. The giant ice block continued its journey and eventually lost its shape. Having broken into many fragments, it simply melted. However, this unusual creation of nature was forever captured in a photograph by NASA specialist Jeremy Harbeck. The discovery of this rectangular iceberg became an important event for the scientific community, as it provided a better understanding of the processes of iceberg formation and movement in Antarctica. In East Antarctica, among the dry valleys of the McMurdo, flows the unusual Blood Falls. It received its name due to a stream of bright red water flowing down the Taylor Glacier. This unique color is explained by the high content of iron oxide, which gives the water a characteristic blood red hue when oxidized. The waterfall is formed by the subglacial Lake Bonny, which lies under about 400 meters of ice. The water in this lake is extremely salty. This allows it to remain liquid even at 210 degrees Celsius and occasionally break through the ice, creating this rare natural phenomenon. The discovery of this unusual waterfall occurred in 1911 during an expedition by the team of Australian geologist Griffith Taylor. Since then, Blood Falls has become the subject of many studies, which led to an important discovery. It turns out that Lake Bonny, hidden beneath a thick layer of ice, hosts a unique ecosystem of microorganisms. These organisms live in complete darkness, without access to sunlight or external nutrients. They survive using an unusual metabolism. The microorganisms have learned to generate energy without photosynthesis or external food sources by oxidizing trivalent iron ions. Research into the microorganisms of Blood Falls began with the first samples in 1911, but only recently have scientific methods allowed a detailed study of their biochemistry and survival processes. Interestingly, the microbes of Lake Bonny have attracted the attention not only of biologists, but also of astrobiologists. They suggest that similar life forms may exist beneath the icy surfaces of Mars or Jupiter's moon Europa, which have comparable conditions. These places are also cold and dark. Thus, the discovery of Blood Falls in Antarctica became an important scientific event, and its study opens the new prospects for the search for life in space. The Piri Reis map is one of the most mysterious artifacts associated with Antarctica. It was discovered in 1929 in the Topkapi Fortress in Istanbul in the Ottoman archives. The map was created in 1513 by the Turkish admiral and navigator Piri Reis. Piri Reis was passionate about cartography and decided to create one of the first world maps. He compiled the information for his work from various sources, including ancient maritime charts, data from Portuguese, Spanish, and Arab navigators, as well as information he gathered personally during his voyages. As a result, Piri Reis created a remarkable world map made on gazelle skin, measuring 90 by 65 centimeters. Interestingly, Piri Reis accurately depicted in detail parts of the western coast of Europe and North Africa, the coast of Brazil, the eastern tip of South America, and various islands of the Atlantic Ocean. For the 16th century, this was a true breakthrough. However, the uniqueness of the Piri Reis map is most often associated with its depiction of a supposed Antarctica. On the map's first compass circle, there is a coastline that resembles the modern understanding of the continent now covered in ice. At the time the map was created, Antarctica had not yet been officially discovered. Its existence only became known in the 19th century. Scientists remain divided on whether the Piri Reis map truly depicts Antarctica or whether it is a misinterpretation of distorted data about the South Pole. Some researchers believe that the map shows the continent's coastline before it was covered in ice, which would have been impossible to know in the 16th century without ancient sources. Others argue that this part of the map is based on inaccurate reports and the fantasies or projection errors of the time. Despite criticism and ongoing scholarly debate, the Piri Reis map continues to be regarded as a unique historical document. Thwaites Glacier is located in West Antarctica. It flows into Pine Island Bay in the Amundsen Sea, near the extinct Mount Murphy volcano. The glacier is enormous, covering an area of about 120,000 square kilometers. Each year, approximately 50 billion tons of ice enter the ocean from its surface, which accounts for about 4% of the total global sea level rise. This makes the glacier a key factor in global climate change. Thwaites Glacier is often referred to as the Doomsday Glacier. This is because scientists are deeply concerned about its current state. The glacier moves at a tremendous speed, more than 2 kilometers per year. In addition, its area is shrinking significantly due to constant melting. Scientists are particularly alarmed by the threat of the glacier's complete collapse, which could cause a catastrophic sea level rise of 0.6 meters. Moreover, this process could trigger a cascade effect, potentially raising global sea levels by up to 3 meters, a serious threat to coastal areas around the world. Satellite data and computer models have confirmed that Thwaites Glacier is undergoing a melting process that is accelerating rapidly. In 2014, specialists estimated that its irreversible collapse would occur in at least 200 and at most 1,000 years. However, recent research indicates that a more rare event is possible. The breakup of the floating part of the glacier could occur within the next 5 to 10 years. Because of this, the international scientific community has allocated $50 million for comprehensive research on this glacier. The goal of this work is to thoroughly study the internal processes of the glacier and forecast the consequences for the planet. Unfortunately, scientists are unlikely to be able to influence the melting of the glacier in any meaningful way. It may be hard to believe, but millions of years ago, Antarctica looked completely different, and instead of eternal frost, lush green forests thrived across the continent. The first scientific assumptions about Antarctica's green past emerged as early as the beginning of the 20th century, but at the time, scientists had no way to confirm them. Modern researchers, however, are regularly making discoveries that support this hypothesis. The most recent study was conducted in January 2025. At that time, an international team of researchers from Germany and the United Kingdom made a sensational discovery. During drilling operations in the Amundsen Sea, located off the coast of West Antarctica, scientists found unique rock samples at depths between 27 and 30 meters below the seabed. These samples contained fertile forest soil from the Upper Cretaceous period. Results from computer tomography showed that 90 million years ago, this area featured a swampy landscape rich in vegetation. The samples contained well-preserved root networks, some of which were so intact that researchers could distinguish individual cell structures. While studying the discovery, specialists were also able to determine the climatic conditions of Antarctica during that time period. It turns out that over 90 million years ago, the average annual air temperature on the continent was around 12 degrees Celsius. In summer, the temperature rose to 19 degrees, and water in rivers and swamps warmed up to 20 degrees. These findings became a true sensation for the scientific community, as all previous climate models had predicted much harsher conditions during that period. Interestingly, even with a 4-month polar night, the climate remained warm enough. That's why Antarctica could boast not only lush forests, but also rich biodiversity. This discovery became yet another piece of evidence of how changeable Earth's climate is, and that Antarctica was once a flourishing continent with tropical forests and a diverse array of both animal and plant life. And that's all from me. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon. Your activity is the best reward for me. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye.